Why do we eat wheat but not grass? Imagine walking into a bakery. You see bread, pasta, cookies, cereal, pizza. All of them have something in common. Wheat. Now walk outside. There's grass everywhere. And here's the strange part. Wheat is a type of grass. So why can humans turn one kind of grass into bread, noodles, and cake, while eating the grass on your lawn would be a terrible idea? Did humans somehow discover the one grass that tastes good? Or did we spend thousands of years forcing grass to become food? The answer is much stranger than you might expect. Because technically, we are eating grass. For most of human history, however, wheat didn't look anything like the neat golden fields we see today. Wild wheat was smaller, tougher, and much less convenient. Its seeds were protected by tough structures that naturally broke apart when the plant matured, allowing the seeds to scatter into the environment. From the plant's point of view, this was perfect. From a human's point of view, it was incredibly annoying. Imagine trying to harvest dinner, only for your dinner to fall apart and disappear every time you touched it. So early humans started doing something that would completely change the future of the plant. They began choosing the plants that were easiest to collect. The plants with bigger seeds. The plants that produced more food. And especially, the plants whose seeds stayed attached to the stalk. Humans harvested those plants, saved some of their seeds, planted them again, and repeated the process. Generation after generation. And eventually, something remarkable happened. The wheat began changing. Not because wheat had a plan. Not because it wanted to become bread. But because humans kept selecting the plants they liked. This was artificial selection. Humans were essentially telling evolution, that one. Grow more like that one. And after thousands of years, the wild grass had become something dramatically more useful to us. But there's another question. If wheat is technically grass, why can't we simply walk outside and eat the grass growing on our lawn? Well, because not all grasses are created equal. The part of wheat humans care about most is its seed. More specifically, the grain. Inside that tiny grain is a concentrated package of carbohydrates, along with protein, fats, vitamins, minerals, and other nutrients. A blade of grass is a completely different story. It's mostly structural plant tissue designed to hold the plant upright and resist being eaten. And there's a reason for that. Grass evolved to survive animals eating it. It contains tough fibers, especially cellulose, which humans are very bad at digesting. Cows? They're basically walking cellulose processing machines. Their digestive systems, with help from specialized microbes, allow them to extract nutrients from grasses. Humans? Not so much. Our digestive system looks at a mouthful of long grass and essentially says, absolutely not. But wheat had another enormous advantage. Its seeds could be stored. And that changed everything. Imagine you're a hunter-gatherer. You find some berries. Great. You eat them. Tomorrow, they're gone. You find an animal. Great. You eat it. Eventually, it's gone too. But a bag of dry grain? That can sit around for months. Maybe even longer under the right conditions. Suddenly, food doesn't have to be eaten immediately. You can collect it. Store it. Transport it. Trade it. And survive bad seasons with it. That tiny seed wasn't just food. It was portable energy. And once humans became good at producing and storing grains, something enormous began happening. People had a reason to stay in one place. They could plant crops. Wait for them to grow. Harvest them. Store the surplus. And plant again. This helped transform human societies from groups that constantly moved around in search of food into increasingly settled agricultural communities. And once people settled, everything started changing. Villages grew. Populations increased. Specialized jobs appeared. Trade expanded. Governments emerged. Writing developed in some early civilizations partly in connection with managing agricultural surpluses. Eventually, cities appeared. And wheat was one of the major players in that story. So when you look at a slice of bread, you're not just looking at food. You're looking at one of the consequences of humanity's decision to stop wandering and start farming. But humans didn't stop there. We discovered another amazing trick. Grinding. A wheat grain is hard. Really hard. Trying to chew raw grains isn't exactly the breakfast experience you want. So humans began crushing them with stones. Grain became flour. Then someone discovered something even more important: water. Mix flour with water, and you get dough. Heat that dough, and something completely different happens. It becomes bread. And then came another discovery that changed everything. Fermentation. Certain microorganisms can consume sugars in dough and produce carbon dioxide. Those bubbles become trapped inside the dough. The dough rises. And suddenly, humans have bread. A food that is softer, easier to eat, easier to transport, and incredibly calorie-dense. Nobody needed to understand microorganisms to discover this. They just needed to notice. Wait, this dough got bigger. And whoever first decided to eat it probably had a very adventurous stomach. But here's where the story gets even more interesting. Humans didn't just domesticate wheat. We domesticated ourselves around it. Think about that. Thousands of years ago, humans changed wheat to make it more useful. But we changed humans too. Once agriculture became important, human societies became increasingly dependent on crops. Our schedules began following planting and harvest seasons. Our settlements formed around fertile land. Our economies became connected to food production. Entire civilizations depended on grain. And some of the oldest written records we have aren't stories about kings or wars. They're essentially ancient paperwork about food, grain, livestock, and trade. Because once you have stored food, you suddenly have something worth counting. Something worth protecting. Something worth trading. Something worth controlling. And that creates an entirely new kind of society. Now here's the funniest part. Today, wheat is everywhere. Bread. Pizza. Pasta. Cereal. Cookies. Cakes. Crackers. Noodles. We transformed one type of grass into an enormous part of the human diet. But if you showed an ancient wild wheat plant to someone today, they might not even recognize it as the same thing. And if you showed modern wheat to a hunter-gatherer from thousands of years ago, they might think we had somehow invented magical grass. But we didn't. We simply kept selecting the plants that were most useful to us. Again. And again. And again. Until nature gave us something almost unrecognizable from where we started. So, why do we eat wheat but not grass? The simple answer is, because wheat was transformed by thousands of years of human selection into a plant whose seeds are exceptionally useful to us. We don't eat the lawn because the parts humans usually consume aren't nutritious or digestible in the same way, and the plant's tough fibers are difficult for our bodies to break down. But the deeper answer is much more fascinating. We didn't just find wheat. We created modern wheat. Not from scratch, but through thousands of tiny decisions made by countless generations of farmers. Every seed they saved, every plant they selected, every harvest they repeated, slowly changed the plant. And eventually, a wild grass became one of the foundations of civilization. So the next time you bite into a piece of bread, remember what you're actually eating. Not just flour. Not just carbohydrates. You're eating the result of thousands of years of humans playing matchmaker with plants. We looked at countless species of grass, picked one, and basically said, "You're coming home with us." And after thousands of years, that little piece of grass ended up helping build our villages, our cities, and perhaps even the civilization you're living in right now.